I get that.
Let's just start the recording. I was going to be 3 minutes late, and then the elevators downstairs were broken, but there was no sense of urgency from the lobby guys because they're like, oh, we'll just let the broken one close and then the next one will call up. The broken one was closing like this.
Gradually.
I'm like, you guys, like, okay, just let it close. So I let it close, go up, press the button again. It reopens the same one. I'm like, and so we had to go do all this stuff to get up. And so, no, I did not climb 11 flights of stairs. Thank you.
I have a great elevator story for you guys. It was early Salesloft, probably 14 employees, and one of them had to go, and I had to do the firing. And so I texted him the day before, making sure he'd be in the office the next day. He shows up. He's like dressed better than I've ever seen. He's got a manila folder. He's got glasses on. He gets his pen out, opens it up. He's like, I'm ready for the meeting. And I'm like, well, today's your last day at Salesloft. And he closes the folder he goes, I got all dressed up for this. Goes back to his desk, and he grabs a box, and he's taking things off his desk and slamming them into the box, making this big loud noise, and everyone's looking around. He literally does the nice working with you, nice working with you, nice working with you, puts his hand out to his manager, is like, no, man, you suck, pulls his hand back, gets on I walk him to the elevator. As the elevator doors are closing, like I'm on one side, he's in, they're closing, and he goes, fuck you, click.
No way.
I got a call 10 minutes later from security downstairs saying he wasn't leaving.
Oh, geez.
No way.
Yeah, I don't know. This is recording, but
it is. But that's all right. If anything, there's legal disclaimers on this thing. That's a way better elevator story than mine of the elevator breaking down and being late to the transaction.
It reminded me. I love the name, The Transaction, guys. Whose idea was that?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I'll give Craig credit for it, maybe.
Well, the only thing I had, Kyle, was that I wanted the word. I love like titles that have the word "the" in front. I don't like when they're saying. I like the something. And then, honestly,
Craig's very anti Sean Parker.
The funnelholic.
I didn't like the Facebook. I think that was a good move.
All right, there you go.
I wouldn't do funnelholic. I'd say the funnelholic. I don't know. It was just a thing. And then we wanted something that would allow us to be hard hitting, right? But in cover not just marketing or sales or vice versa. Like had everything. So I think we just literally put Matt might have created a list of like 1,000 names, right?
Yeah, we use ChatGPT for a lot of it too.
We asked Albro, yeah. So you can see, hey, we're AI driven in our titling, in our cover art, everything. All right, so let's get going since Craig was late. Sorry, guys.
From ABM to PLG, from Medic to MedPick, the world of business is constantly evolving. We'll cover the who, what, where, when, why, and most importantly, how you get the transaction. I'm Matt Amundson, and he's Craig Rosenberg. Let's get started.
So today's guest is, I don't know, this is sentimental and awesome at the same time, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure.
Kyle was like part of my life for years. So, but I don't know if you know the time when I met him. He's probably bored. I get this story all the time. So basically, I had two things happening at the same time. One was there was this employee from Salesloft who looked like he was a 14-year-old kid, comment spamming every blog post and tweet I ever did. Okay? So that's one.
That wasn't me.
I know.
I looked like a 16-year-old kid, I guess, back then.
That was our buddy John Birdsong, who is one of my favorite guys of all time. And I met him because he was comment spamming. So like I start to get this visibility. Then Mike Damphouse is like, bro, you've got to check out this Salesloft thing. And at the time, you guys were doing job change alerts, which was amazing, right? And so I'm like, Damp, I got to meet this guy. And he's like, done. Makes the intro. Kyle's like, yeah, 3:00, whatever. We get on. He's driving, right? Because there's no way. He's doing something. This kid is making it happen. We get on. His energy, like in explaining himself and what he did and how he came to it, I was just like, dude, this guy's going to make it. There's like there's this characteristic of someone, even if they have to seek to find what that thing is, which in the case of Salesloft, there's historical there where you sought the market and brought it up. And I'm like, this dude's going to make it. And so that was Salesloft. From the relationship started in the LinkedIn job change alerts all the way through the transition into becoming one of the leading sales and engagement platform vendors, or sales tech vendors, and then one of the folks that were able to come out the other side with an incredible exit. And it was along that way that I just watched him from this guy that just brought energy to a guy who was always refining his management skills and CEO skills and learning and incorporating that and leading in a way that was amazing. And, Matt was, that's where I met Matt, was right? Or no,
Matt Marchetto, but yeah.
Yeah. But you did a really sweaty presentation at Rainmaker.
It wasn't sweaty. It was sweary. And it was because
very sweary. Yeah.
Yeah. I had lost my voice, but I did bring the house down, and I feel very confident in saying that, even, 10 years past. That was one of my better presentations.
It was.
Most of the times you brought the house down with us. And the best one for me was when you came to our office and did it with the whole company. And that was in office next to Atlanta Tech Village. We're probably 35, 40 people at the time. Very early cadence days. And I remember sitting there and I go, I just learned more shit in this presentation than any other sales and marketing presentation. No offense to the Funnel Hawk. I learned a lot from yours.
No, that's all right. That's all right. That's all right. So today's guest in the transaction, it's an honor. We've wanted to have you on for a long time here, is Kyle Porter, now living in Florida, surviving hurricanes and doing a whole bunch of stuff. So Kyle, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here. Very excited and really honored that you guys thought to have me on.
Yeah, I thought so much of it that I was 10 minutes late. I'm sorry about that.
It's all good. We had time to razz on you before you showed up.
That's true.
Those points
you got to hit record. This stuff plays so well on the internets.
That's true.
So Kyle, let's get into it and people, like, this is what's cool is like people get to hear from you again. We used to have to hear from you every day. So
that's the biggest thing I miss. There are two things I miss. One is I no longer am leading a high performance team on an ambitious mission. That's number one. And number two is I'm no longer, like, I have all these things that pop in my head. They're not out on the web and out on content the way they used to be. So that one I'm probably going to solve for at some point in time. Maybe you guys help me out there.
All right. I love it. So let's start with the big question we like to ask, which is, what is something, or, some things that the market believes that they're doing right. It could be approach, methodology, management, tactics, anything, where they're actually wrong and they should be thinking about doing it another way. And so what is that? And what should they be doing different? What should they be doing differently? So we are going to hand the mic to you, and let's hear what you have to say, and then we go from there.
Well, I'll give you a high level leadership, kind of CEO founder level, and then I'll give you down to B2B marketing and sales.
Awesome.
So at the top level, I believe the world of business, especially the tech industry, is plagued by leaders who focus too much on being smart and not enough on being different and being healthy. And so to kind of extrapolate on that, in our journey at Salesloft, and I've seen it many times, outside of that, especially in tech, CEOs are trying to create the newest technology, innovate on the stack, working with AI, doing anything they can to build kind of that next level of technology. And we did all those things also, but where we focused a ton of our attention, and what I believe to be true, is that organizational health is the biggest, most significant advantage that any company can have. And that there's a formula to making that work in a company that nobody else follows the way it could. Some people do, but not many follow it. Then as you take that down into B2B marketing and sales, I believe that these organizations and teams have become too data-driven, overly focused on metrics, and not focused on taking risks, being creative, creating the right team dynamics, and winning the way that involves a 360-degree view of approach, not just focused on numbers.
Wow. Okay, we have some connective tissue to the AJ Gandhi episode, don't we? On that
Yeah,
one?
yeah, we definitely do, and that's two people that are now, on the investing side, advocating for this type of activity, which I think is that should be a signal, right? This is a signal. It's not just people talking about it on the street; it's people that are sitting in your board meetings talking about this, and I think that this is a big deal. This is a big deal. We talked a lot over the course of this show about the way the pendulum swung on marketing tactics being a little too robotic or a little too like quote unquote data driven, automated, etc. The same on sales tactics, but I think it's the ideation piece that matters as well. And there are lots of marketers, lots of sales professionals out there today who they're like, well, I'd love to do this, but I don't know how to measure it, so I won't do it, which is a huge mistake.
Yeah.
Huge mistake.
Yeah, and by the way, Kyle, we want to go back to the organizational health, but let's dig on this because
which is also hard to measure, and another reason why people don't invest in that a lot.
Exactly.
That's right. But this is an organizational wide thing where people are actually constrained by the metrics instead of trying to do big things. And and so Kyle, I actually think what would be interesting here, because Kyle took, as the CEO and founder of Salesloft, one of the things they did to get attention was they took incredible chances.
Yep. Yes.
And those are great stories. I wonder, Kyle, if we could dig in on that. Like tell us some of those crazy things you guys did at Salesloft as you guys were building it up. And while you do that, I will be right back. Keep going.
Yeah, we talked about some of these in kind of the preview call, but I read that book Behind the Cloud, the Benioff book, and loved the stories of the stuff he was doing. It was like, hey, we're going to the SAP conference and we're renting all the taxi cabs, and we're going to take every customer from the hotel to the conference and put a rep in the shotgun seat, and they're going to have conversations. That was genius, right? Or when Benioff kind of protested the SAP conference with the signs of like, free software, right? Like free software from the jail of the into the cloud and from the client server model. And so, we wanted to poke back at Benioff a little bit, and so we had a few fun campaigns there. You guys know about the first one. I think you might know about the second, and I actually found the Craigslist posting. There's a Craigslist posting where it says "Wanted fake Marc Benioff lookalike," right? And turns out some dude I played poker with that one of our reps knew was like, you should call Cam. And so we call Cam, and the guy looks enough like Benioff to pass. So we offer him a free flight to San Francisco. He can stay in the house that we rented. We've got an extra room there. And we dress him up like Benioff. We give him a Pardot hat. We get him the exact same outfit that Mark's wearing. We even take like black Converse, and one of the marketing ladies paints a blue cloud on the Converse. And like, we took the one of those head pieces that they give you on the airplane and like wound it around a pin so it kind of looked like one of those like springy things. Anthony Zhang, our sales guy, who was also a male model, he's wearing a full black suit, the headpiece in, glasses on, and he's walking around with Benioff. Tammy McQueen, who was our marketing director at the time, South African, she's wearing her Louboutin shoes and a black dress, carrying a clipboard, following Benioff around everywhere he goes. But the best part was when their security came to our booth and said, hey, we know what you're doing. We saw the Craigslist ad. Mark would like to meet you. So they're like, all right, let's go. So Mark comes down. He shakes the fake Marc Benioff's hand. We do a photo shoot. He thanks him for taking those press interactions that Mark couldn't get to in time. I mean, this guy got on stage and accepted like a nonprofit, like he was like depositing cans in a nonprofit on stage. He was signing autographs at the booths, like 3 booths behind us. And I didn't think he looked that much like him, but it worked enough. I think it was the whole entourage. That was the first time. So then the next year rolls around and we're like, man, how are we going to upstage that? And by the way, the best part about that whole thing was when we're at your party, Craig, and you stop to welcome everyone to the party. And then you say, before we get going, I've got to commend Kyle and the Salesloft team on what they did. And like, that was actually the ROI, because then I had 40, 50 people to talk to all night long about it. All became, friends and prospects. So that was like where it actually, like, that would have been hard to calculate. Oh, we're going to be the most favored nation status at Craig's party if we do this. And that will lead to X number of leads and relationships. Like, you can't calculate that, right? We also wrote a blog post of like how we impersonated Benioff. That was awesome. So we got to step this thing up, and we're like, what are we going to do next year? So the first idea we have, or the first one that we decide we're going to go with, is that we're going to take $2 bills and we're going to get a custom stamp that says Benioff for president, Benioff 2020 president.
Oh, I
and
remember
we
this.
learned that you can actually do this to money. So you can't deface money unless it's for a political purpose. Then you can. So this is actually legal. So we take like $200, $300 in $2 bills, or $300 $2 bills, which, by the way, is like 1/1000th of a Dreamforce booth, right? We stamp this thing, and we have two people that we pay to dress up in stilts with Uncle Sam costumes on that are handing these things out, and they got a little short link that goes to the Salesloft website. Not so sure what that one was going to do for us, but Adrian Grenier, the star of the show Entourage, ends up with one, and ends up with the pin, Benioff for president, puts it in his mouth, takes a selfie, posts it on Instagram. Hey, can I be your running mate? Business Insider sees it, writes a whole article about how Adrian Grenier wants to be Marc Benioff's running mate, at least if Salesloft gets what they want, and details who we are, right? So that was one. Number two was we had drones, and this is 2000, like, what is this? 2016, 15? This is 15. So we hired drones to take giant banners up and fly them all around Moscone that say SDR on them and Salesloft on the back. The guy shows up at our office with a drone from Philadelphia, flies up there. He's got the banner. This is like the test. He takes it. This is on the roof of the Atlanta Tech Village Salesloft headquarters. He flies the thing up in the air. It tilts on its side. The blades hit the ground. Everything starts shattering. Stuff's flying past our faces. I'm like, what's going on? And I go, can you fix it? And he goes, no. And I go, do you have another one? And he goes, no. And I go, well, the good news is there's flights back to Philadelphia every hour, bro. So this guy flies back. So that one didn't work. But the last one was, we had these extra $2 bills, and we decided to put them in money guns. And then we decided we were going to try to shoot them from the bridge and land in Jim Cramer's filming of Mad Money on the scene at Moscone.
Are you kidding?
This is the idea. I don't know how we got to this, but we're just like, we want everyone to know who we are. So it's 2015, like Cadence was like launched that year, 12 months prior. So Tammy and Sean Kester, who you guys know, they're like, Kyle, you can't be the one pulling the trigger on the money gun. I'm like, okay, I'll go down and film while you guys go do it. So Sean and Tammy go up the bridge, and I see Sean, his like gun gets stuck, and then Tammy just letting them fly, and then Sean's working, they're letting them fly. We shoot 150, $2 bills out, and they don't land on Jim Cramer, but he films an Instagram saying they did. And in the Instagram, he's like, why are you guys talking bad about Salesloft? I'm the one who thought they were fake money. I should have been collecting them, because he's like, I thought they were fake money. So we got this Jim Cramer from CNBC Mad Money talking about, and he's going, Salesloft, like over and over again. So yeah, that's another example. We got countless ones, quite frankly, but those are some of the fun ones. And, I remember there was some blowback on that one, because Business Insider wrote an article that a startup shot money into the streets of San Francisco as a way to say it was like a sign of the bubble. And then the Tout app CEO, who was a competitor at the time, he kind of went away fast after that. He like went on and tried to play that we were like offending homeless people and, just all these like virtue signaling things. And then I wrote back and I go, here's how much you paid for your booth, and here's how much I paid for mine. Because this is like the gold booth. It was like $750,000. And mine was like super silver. That was like, $14K for first timers, or something like that. So,
what's amazing though is that on those stories, Matt, is like how, one of the things, that Matt and I, when we started the show, wasn't just that we wanted to hang out, but they're like, we were at the time advising Series A startups, late seed, whatever, and it was clear that if you didn't do anything, you better have the greatest product of all time, because that's the only thing you got. But if you did the baseline of what was working for the last 10 years, you also couldn't move the needle as well as you. And we were like, there's a new playbook, but there's also this like thing that maybe is part of the playbook, but like what we've seen the best stories on the show, we just wanted to have the show so we could come grab these stories. Whereas like we had this kid, Mac Redden, he came on and he just had these crazy ideas. He is like you. I mean, he did a chicken wing eating contest at Pavilion without even having the company launched, and nobody knew him. And he had a third of the conference pre-sign up to go visit him. No demo software, no nothing, just chicken wings and like 5 different sauces. And it was like, it was thinking outside the box. But by the way, so this thing though is that right now there's so much software, there's so much feature parity, there's so much noise that it doesn't have to be as zany as like, the stories we were just talking about, or as aggressive, but it has to stand out.
Well, especially at Dreamforce then, because that was a circus, man. I mean, you got to do something wild for anyone to even remember you were there.
Totally. Like Maria Pergolino, who we work with, is like, if you're at a conference as a vendor, you have to remember one thing. They will remember 1 to 2 things when they leave. As a marketer, your job is to be one of them.
Yeah.
And like it was really cool. And by the way, though, when Kyle was telling the story and Benioff sort of jumped in on that, Benioff, I'm old enough, I don't know if you guys are, when they jumped in, they had a fake protest in front of Siebel. No software. It was guerrilla marketing at its finest. And Siebel, I think, called the cops, right? I think they literally had the actors that Mark hired arrested. And they were, they had the horn and the signs and all this stuff. But it was like, and that was like maybe a lightning strike, like a big sort of, here's the category that's coming. In your case, you're like, look, I'm going to this big event where, as you said, you had just launched Cadence. It's like, how do we go out there and make noise? And you got to take chances, and you can't measure that.
The other thing we would do is walk up to people, and we would walk up to people and say, hey, excuse me, you look like someone important that I need to know.
No, you didn't.
And that's how we start conversations.
All the Salesloft people used to do that. They were notorious for doing that. And it was the greatest opening line
that I need to know.
Yeah. It was the greatest opening line, and it got you guys so many conversations, and it totally just, it disarmed everybody, and they're like, oh, hey, yeah, of course, I'm this one.
They always do this. They're like, they chuckle and they go, what do you got, man? I'm here for you.
Matt, you knew about this, dude?
Yes.
All I could think about was Kester using that line, not just as a business line. But anyway.
All right, so one more funny one. And then there's a lot of there's a lot of substance ones too we can get into. But, we had Rainmaker Conference, and that was probably the biggest like modern sales conference at the time. Until Topo came along, but you guys were marketing and sales. But there was a ton of energy on that, and we really loved it. And it, we had a blast doing it. Got to spend a ton of time with customers and prospects. But our competitor Outreach came out with the conference some years later, and they called it Unleash. And so Unleash 17 is coming out, and I'm like, people are emailing me like their tweets and stuff, and I'm like, I don't want to see any of this stuff anymore. O'Malley's running marketing for us. I go, O'Malley, can you take over their hashtag somehow? The hashtag is Unleash17. He goes, all right, let me think about it. I'll come back. On the day their conference starts, they got one of those like LED board that's like streaming the hashtags, right? It's a pretty unique hashtag, Unleash17. O'Malley comes back and he goes, I got it. He goes, this morning at the Atlanta Tech Village, Bosley's Place, which is an orphanage for underage puppies, is going to bring a bunch of puppies, put them in a pen in the lobby of Atlanta Tech Village, our building, and anyone who wants can come down and pet and play with these puppies. We're going to unleash them, and the hashtag for this puppy party is Unleash17. And I'm like, this is mind blowing how smart this is, right? You literally have the hashtag of like them on the main stage at Unleash. And then you have countless posts of people playing with puppies, puppies from up top, puppies from below. We raised thousands of dollars for the puppies. Every single puppy got adopted. And there were like 50 hashtagged images with puppies and Salesloft reference all up on their board for the hashtag. 17 puppies gone wild.
That is amazing. But that goes back to Matt and AJ's point in that last show, which is like, that's not going to show up in the MQL report that you deliver.
Scale or yeah.
Yeah, you have to have this like, this mentality on like, can we sit in a room and think of things that we could do to, now in that case, was that for PR for Salesloft, or was that a competitive? That was a competitive.
That was like we want to be all up in their hashtag. So if they're gonna get this buzz that comes from having a conference, and anyone's gonna be clicking and watching and seeing all this, we want to be in the middle of it so that they see us too and think about us too.
That's amazing.
That was,
I want to go back on organizational health because I want to make sure we define that, if that's all right, just because like, we just had a meeting and and like the guy I was with is like, well, that's soft. I'm like, no, dude, he's not talking about working out and doing yoga every morning. He's talking about something really strategic. So I do think it's worth laying out. So this was just for the audience. We sort of dug in on this one area, but the first thing you said is most founders worry about being smart instead of organizational health.
Instead of being healthy.
Yeah. What is it? What is that?
Well, it's pretty simple. A healthy organization is one that has less politics and confusion. It's got higher morale, improved productivity, lower regretted attrition, easier recruiting. Name a leader on the planet that doesn't want those things, right? And where this differentiates from being smart is that building organizational health into your company does not take complex thinking and analysis. It takes unrelenting levels of commitment, courage, consistency, right? It's simple in theory, but it's difficult in practice. And so I think that's why, but I mean, when you have it, everything is better. You have smarter people, more dedicated to the cause, that work better with each other, creates the environment where ideas can flow naturally, where big things can happen, where smart people can do smart things, right? Where product can innovate and differentiate and, outcompete the competition. But I think it's got to start there. And, it's like building a cohesive leadership team, creating organizational clarity, over communicating that clarity, and then reinforcing your organizational health through human systems. And when you do all those things, it's lights out on what you can build inside of a company. And, we saw it firsthand, right? We continued to stay the course. I remember there was a time when our investors were pitting us down. They're like, what are you going to do different to win in this market? You got a lot of competition. There's new competition coming in. And by the way, our biggest competition originally was Yesware, gone. ToutApp, gone. Then it was InsideSales.com, gone. And like and now even the people that were our competitors 3 years ago are not our competitors anymore. So I think, my answer was always, we're already doing it. We're going to stay the test of time. We're going to operate healthy, and we're going to continually love and serve our customers and our people better than anyone else. And when you care more than anyone else, you're going to win ultimately. And it's a long play. So I think, a lot of people are like, hey, there's a lot of biases that hold people back from really jumping in and doing this. Like, one is the sophistication bias. I think I told you this in the prep call. The CEO of Southwest, most profitable and successful airline, commercial airline of all time, when asked why the competitors don't do the simple things they do to build organizational health, he sadly sighs that they think it's beneath them, right? My competitors thought it was beneath them to do the things that we did to make our company healthy. Another one is adrenaline bias. Like, you're off building products, selling products, serving customers, and you think that you're too busy to do these things. And the other is the one that we've come back to multiple times is quantification bias. It's hard to measure the success of organizational health. Now, we can tell you our Glassdoor was higher than anyone else's for the longest period of time. We won number one best place to work in Atlanta 3 times for every size that company was, right? I don't know if we got a report from LinkedIn once that showed our attrition was less than everyone else in the marketplace, right? So all these things kind of prove that. And, and still today, I mean, you talk to any ex-lofter, hear them talk about their journey at Salesloft. I wanted to create an environment where others could come to learn more, do more, become more, take their career and their talents to the next level, find fulfillment and serve others. And I wanted that to be the greatest place they've ever worked. I didn't want to be the ultimate greatest place they ever worked. They're going to go on and hopefully find better and, bigger and better things as their career progresses. But that created the environment that allowed us to compete and win.
That's amazing.
There is something, there's a story that I always like to tell about Kyle, and usually, I'll tell this I should have probably told this at the beginning of the podcast, but we're all kind of getting through everything. And, when I bought Salesloft for the first time, I transacted online, right? I think I talked to a salesperson, but I think I put a credit card in. And so, I had it, I had a single license. There was not a lot of Salesloft users in Silicon Valley at that time.
This is Prospector, right?
Yeah, Prospector.
Yeah.
And I'm I'm trying to build it. Yeah. No. It was Cadence.
Oh, it was. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm trying to build it. I'm building out our initial cadences. This is when I was at Everstring. And I had a problem. So I hit the chat like, hey, how do I solve this? Blank. Up pops this name. Okay, cool. This person helps me, solves my problem. No problem. It's after hours, I'm working on it. Maybe it's like midnight Pacific Coast time. I hit the chat for support, not expecting anybody to get back to me until the next morning. Bing, somebody responds right away. And then I'm in the office and I'm talking about, hey, I love this Salesloft tool. What's amazing about it, it's a great product, but it also has great customer service. There's this guy, his name's Kyle. He's responding to every single one of my help requests. Like, I'm chatting in for support. And Carolyn Feibelman was like, that's the CEO, dummy. And I was like, no, there's no way that's the CEO of the company. This guy's responding to my stuff at, lunchtime in Atlanta, 3 o'clock in the morning in Atlanta. There's no way it's that guy. Yeah, it was Kyle. And so
that's when hairs went gray those days.
So when you talk about things like that are beneath you or not beneath you, being customer obsessed, it can't be a thing that you just put on the wall. It's something that you have to embody. And all cultures of companies are driven by the CEO of their company, without a doubt. So when you're demonstrating to not only your customers, but also to your employees that you have no problem, even, being the CEO of the company, jumping in to support customers, it just becomes a part of the culture in a way that, like, saying it at the top of a company all hands meeting, it doesn't have the same impact on the employees as it does if you just go do the work. And that's what always, blew me away about Salesloft. And the thing about it is, Kyle talks a lot about the way, he created culture for the employees and the experience that he wanted to have for the employees. But being a customer was like that. Being a customer, it felt like you were a part of something. This sort of revolution. And I mean, I think I attended the first 5 Rainmakers before we had to cancel in 2020 for the pandemic. And it's just each one got bigger and bigger. It felt as a customer like you were a part of something, not just that you were a customer of a product. And that's one of the things that I think really gets lost in today's world is, we talk about being customer obsessed, but we're not. We're not. It doesn't feel like we're a part of a movement when we buy these tools or these products the way, I felt like it was when people were customers of Marketo, and certainly the way it was to be a customer of Salesloft. And that's something that I think we have to drive back in. But people think a lot about, hey, this gets created because, we're going to talk about it. We're going to write it on the wall. But when you empower your employees the way the Salesloft team empowered their employees, they're out doing the work. And then that trickles down into how they treat their customers, not just their prospects, but their customers. So taking care of your employees actually helps you take care of your customers, because people are like, you know what? Yeah, it's 5 o'clock, but you know what this customer needs? They need something. So you know what? I'm going to stay on my laptop. Or, hey, I'm out at Dreamforce, and that person's a Salesloft customer. I'm going to make sure that they have a ride home, or they have an invitation to a party, or that they get in through the door of this restaurant or whatever, because everybody cares. Everybody feels like they're a part of this journey. It's not just, hey, we're a company and we're trying to make money. Certainly every company is, but that culture just trickled down through the employees and down to the customers, and that's what creates this big movement. And all the marketing stuff that you talked about, all this stunt marketing that you talked about, that made the customers also feel great about being customers. You know, I have this product
you
called
give me goosebumps
Salesloft
right now, man. You might even be able to see them here. Dude, when a customer bought Salesloft, I had the mentality that they had just saved my life, and I was going to treat them as such. And you ever heard this saying, like, if someone's depressed and down, what's the antidote? The antidote is go serve someone, right? Like like think about the times you've shown love to someone. That's like the best feeling in the world. And so my job was to shower love on the lofters, to love on them so deeply that they then turned around and put that right on the customer. And I would do that too and show them kind of ways to do it. But if I just focused on the customer, then now it's hard to get them to follow. I'm giving it to them first and then letting it go from there.
Yeah.
And that works. I'm in a forum for YPO. It's 10 guys. We meet once a month for 6.5 years. And one of the guys, I kind of took over as moderator 2-3 years in. And the guy goes, my wife told me that she knew this meeting would work forever when you guys started using the word love in it. And that was my contribution, because I saw what it did at Salesloft. I mean, like, you can still click the hashtag sales love and it's still Salesloft stuff out there,
That's right.
And I wanted to name the Rainmaker Conference Salesloft. If I go back in time, I might.
Yeah, it is amazing. Actually, I know on the way that your culture transcended the walls of Salesloft and out into guys like Matt, and it was remarkable. Now, I will say this, which I think is really interesting. You could agree or disagree, but I do think your main competitor at the time, Outreach, also built a community, and it was the wildest thing. I was an analyst at the time, just so the market could see, and I'm watching as these armies of customers. And it's almost like the political scene we see out there right now, which is like they were in camps, and these camps were vocal. Like it wanted
to battle it out on a LinkedIn post.
Oh my God, yeah.
I had to. Our buddy Pete Casangi, amazing dude who had created this forum. It was like that I used to just couldn't wait to see how people were engaging. It was early. Then it just became Salesloft versus Outreach. And then the armies came out on LinkedIn, Salesloft versus the armies, Reddit, all these places. It was like, because we were trying to track all that info, and we just were like, man. And it was this army, because they had done a really, in a different way, but like had built their army too. It was
they bought Sales Hacker, which was a smart move.
Yeah.
It was an incredible battle. It was epic, honestly. And so anyway, as we think about what Matt's talking about, which is before this sort of became what it was, which was this battle of this customer armies, you had to, if you hadn't done what you had done, which was to take this beyond the product and extend your love out there, you wouldn't have built the army. Honestly, you would have lost big. Yeah. But you had this army of folks like Matt, man. He was such an advocate. I remember, and like the strong out there at the time we were all going to events all the time, and Matt, was out there. And like, I remember like just looking at the room, Matt had done one of the topo things. It was amazing. And like, he went through his tech stack and whatever. I'm just watching the room and I'm going, yeah, the other Saleslofters, it was like, he's one of us. It was
that we are incredibly eternally grateful too. And I hope you've felt that from us, because
I felt it. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's like the way your employees acted because you supported them and loved them up. That's the way I acted as a customer, because I felt supported and loved up by the brand. I could tell 100 stories of the times that Kyle personally jumped in to help me out in various different situations. I mean, this dude at Rainmaker 3, I believe, he gave me the presidential suite. He gave me his hotel room at the hotel that the conference was at. I mean, that's the kind of guy he is, right? Like, that I mean, I don't think I've ever been a customer of any other product where I was treated as well by not just the CEO, but the brand as a whole. Right. And so there was so much pride of being a Salesloft customer that, like, getting on LinkedIn every morning and being like, all right, who am I fighting with today? Who am I going to have to beat up around why Salesloft is better than Outreach today? I'm taking on all challengers.
I want to make sure the audience doesn't get distracted from the fact that also this love translated directly into obsessing about the technical challenges that these sellers were trying to solve.
Sure.
And making sure that we built the most user experience, easiest, most simplest, most effective way for them to generate opportunities and close deals, right? And so this love translated, it's like, I would tell the team, I'm like, imagine your best friend is about to, like, really make a bad decision with a girlfriend or boyfriend, right? Like, you're going to do what you can to stop that, right? Imagine someone's about to jump off a bridge. I'm going to stop you. Like, I want you to think about these sellers that level. You need to love them so much that you are going to eliminate the problems in their lives. Yeah. And I want you to figure out specifically what those are, down to the way that they use the software and use technology to get their job done. What are those jobs they're trying to make happen? And how can we make their life easier through all of that? Because that's love, right? Yeah. And so, I mean, it was all elements of the business.
Yep.
So let me ask you guys this.
Now, hold on. I got a question for you, Craig.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I remember the time you came into town. We got Gus's fried chicken. Fantastic. You said something to me then. You said that the thing that could possibly hold me back from winning was that I was too nice. I want you to comment on that.
Actually, I will add to this story, because when you had your outcome and you and I were hanging out, I think we were down in Atlanta at that Mediterranean restaurant, and you and I were on the side, drinking a couple drinks, and you're like, remember when you said that I was too nice? Well, you were wrong. So like Matt, you could ask the question, what's something Craig thought was right and he was actually wrong and should be thinking about it differently?
It might have still been good that you did it, because I remembered it,
Yeah. I mean, I was wrong, but I will defend my comment, because at the time it was hyper competitive, and there were, like, you were a very trusting guy, which and I'm going to talk to it in a sec. And I was like, my main point was, man, there's guys that, this was a battle. And, like, I'm like, you got to think about, who you're going to be nice to and who's not, because they may not be nice to you in the background. Now, I was wrong, and I learned from you. And actually, I've changed a lot as a result, which is like, if you set the standard of trust and you allow for the fact that that may not work out, it's actually a better way to live, and you have better relationships with the people that you're working with. So I was wrong on that. I was in the defense I'm making is that I learned from you on that. And here's the other thing. Take the puppy story. You guys still battled. That was the big thing. You battled against that, right? You didn't take the nice guys finish last thing. You did, but you did put a puppy farm up to hijack their hashtag. So look, man, here, yes, that's the thing. And that's what I learned from you is let's build trust, and just, you can battle, because business is business, but just have fun with it. That was for me. And so anyway, I've commented on that, but I grew as a result of that.
Awesome. Well, I did twice about it too, and I let my sharp elbows fly from time to time. I think you asked some of the people that were closest to me in the company, and they'll say that it wasn't all wine and roses working for me.
Let me give you a couple other tactics though from your days. I'd love for you to comment on it.
Yeah, please.
So one was, early days of Topo, we were really kind of consulting. And so, and you guys were early, and so we were at, I believe, Gainsight, and they were looking at stuff. I said, well, look, let me introduce you to the Salesloft guys. And so, make the intro. They have the call. Meta comes in, and he's like, dude, who are these Salesloft guys? I said, why? He's like, well, it sounds like we had a demo. Those guys called me, like it was either Kyle or someone else, an hour later. And I was like, oh my God, this is like the key stakeholder play that people are afraid to do. These kids in Atlanta are basically doing a demo and then going right to the top, right out of the gate. And at the time, this is the things that, as we're talking about this, it's not just like applauding Kyle, but like there's this thing that you could see, because I was on the inside, about how you engage with people. They were selling a sales tech product. They fearlessly went to the top. That was what Nick was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that interesting? He was like, I can't believe this. We've got to do this.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that was a coordinated plan or just instinct, Kyle, but that is something we can learn from as we build companies and markets, with others. Like, comment on that for me real quick.
Okay. There's a moment in Boulder, Colorado. We moved the company to Boulder, Colorado, summer of 2012 to be part of the Techstars program. And I remember sitting in the house we were renting, and there might have been a little Rocky Mountain High in the air.
Sure.
And I start preaching, and I'm like, and I get done talking, and I go, guys, is someone recording this? And they go, yeah, you've asked us to record it twice. It's recording. And the thing that I had pushed the hardest was, we're going to go direct to the top. We're not going to stop. We're going to go direct to the top. That was the thesis of the whole talk in the kitchen that day. But, why not, right? I mean, what do you have to lose, right? And if you're creative enough, if you're engaging enough, if you're resourceful enough, you can get through to anybody, right? There's nothing stopping you. And our whole business is set on the premise that you can reach out to someone, connect with someone, and turn it into an opportunity. So we got to be the best there is at telling you look like someone important and we want to know you, or doing it in a strategic way. I got something to tell you on this topic. You guys remember when that Zora deck was floating around? It was a sales deck, Zora sales deck. And it was being touted as the greatest sales deck ever. And I thought about that, and I go, that's not the greatest sales deck ever. I've got the greatest sales deck. And marketers are going to hate this deck because it's basically empty when it starts. And I mean, we all know that the worst sales deck is the one that's just the product, right? Like feeds. We all know that. And Zora basically said, oh, the best sales deck is the one that makes us change our perspective on the world around us and come to a conclusion that we should be operating a certain way that just happens to be the thesis of the product that we provide, right?
Yeah.
When we went into enterprise deals, we took a really unique approach. You probably heard about this, Craig, but we decided we're going to go in and we're going to do this thing called progressive prospecting. So let's say the opportunity is Google Cloud, right? I'm going to get the most junior guys at Salesloft to call junior people at Google Cloud and interview them. They're basically going to collect as much information they can about what's working, what's not working, who's doing what's the tech stack, what's the political landscape. They're going to try to build a little map of something that they think that they can then improve on. Then they're going to take that information and go to management, and they're going to say, we've interacted with your team, and we've learned a few things that you may not know about your team. Are you willing to set up a call? They get on the call, and the deck it's about them. The first slide is, here's the faces of the people we talked to. Face, name, title. Here's what they told us is working and what's not. Here's what they told us your tech stack is. Oh, by the way, did we get that right or wrong? And we will edit the deck while we're talking to you to update it. Oh, you're not using this solution, you're using that one, right? Here's the hypothesis of what we think we can help with. Here's the hypothesis of what we think it will impact from an outcomes perspective. And then here's the proof points of where we've done it before, right? And then that deck would then build based on what they learned from them. Then I would take it to the CEO and I go, hey, CEO, we've interacted with your staff. We've interacted with your team. We've had 7 calls. We've learned a lot of information. Can I present to you what I think you might want to know about how your team can improve sales and increase the amount of opportunities you're closing and generate double-digit increases. And they're like, how do they say no to that? Maybe they say, just talk to my CRO instead. Okay,
Sure.
I'll give that presentation to him or her, And so I called this the ultimate sales deck. And it was like this progressive work in progress deck where we don't even do it in presentation mode because we got the cursor ready to type as you talk into the deck. And that deck stays the whole time. And at the end, the deck says, here's what you're going to pay. Here's the date. Here's the payment terms. It's closing that deal from the deck all the way down. And here's the check-in call 6 months after in the details of what we expect from an outcomes perspective. So that's the kind of the mentality of go to the top, but don't just go to the top. Go to the top with something that they haven't heard before, something that they don't know, something that they really, really, really want to know.
That was incredible and very specific. That's what we like the transaction.
Yeah.
When we get specific examples like this, I guarantee Matt will call me later today and go, that was awesome. Okay. One more. Actually, I just had a couple I want to get from you. So one of the things that Matt and I have been harping on, and it's clear, is founder brand and leveraging that. You did that incredibly well. So I guess I'll let you answer this in two ways. One was that conscious, and how did you approach it? And then two, if you were going to do this again, what would you do around founder brand?
Yeah. I remember having carpal tunnel in my hands because I was writing a blog post every single day on my phone. Mm-hmm. And so I was obsessed with this idea of if I don't publish daily, and this was for 18 months, we probably did this, then I won't be able to build up the talents to write. I won't be able to build up the courage to write. I won't be able to build up the culture to write. And so I just wanted to have publish. But I'll tell you what was most effective, and this actually involves you and others. The most effective channel for the most effective kind of momentum we got in content is that we were nobodies and no one knew who we were, but people knew who the Funnelholic was. People knew who Trish Bertuzzi was, or Steve Richard, or John Barrows, or in the investor world, Jason Limkin, Mark Suster, Brad Feld, right? So I decided that I'm going to, some of the blog posts that I wrote early were here's the 10 things the Funnelholic wants you to know about improving your sales skills, right? Here's the playbook straight from the mouth of Trish Bertuzzi that's going to help you double digit your, new qualified opportunities next quarter. So I just read all of your stuff, obsessed over it, consumed it, and then I promoted you on my blog in a way that you liked it because it was talking about you in a positive way. And then Trish would share it, Steve would share it. I remember one day we got 1,000 signups for job change alerts because Steve Richard went on a webinar with the guy who's the founder of InsideSales.com. I'm blanking on his name. Not the CEO, but the other one. Really Joe guy.
Krog?
Yeah, Ken Krog. They go on a webinar together, and Steve Richard says, you are smoking crack if you don't sign up for jobchangealerts.com.
No.
In the webinar. And that thing gets 250 signups that day, right? And then we just start posting on LinkedIn quotes, you're smoking crack if you don't sign up for Job Change Alerts. Steve Richard, link to sign up for Job Change Alerts, right? And so we could tie back to 1,000 new signups for that product from that webinar. But that was after we had talked about Steve Richard 10 times.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a funny one, Jason Limkin, who's the famous SaaSter and investor.
Of course.
I cold Quora'd him. Is this a thing? I cold connected with him on Quora because he was writing all this stuff on Quora. And he then went on podcast or video Google Plus Hangouts with us like this. And then we would chop up the conversations into 7 bits and they'd each be a blog post, right? And so that relationship ended up ultimately being the relationship that introduced me to Emergence Capital, who led our Series A, Insight Partners, who led our Series C, right? And he was the key element of that. But I think that was really, and I'll tell you one more. At one point in time, I had the #1 blog post ever on the salesforce.com blog. And I had 2 of the top 5 as a guest blogger on salesforce.com blog. And the first one was 7 things Tony Robbins wants you to know to improve your sales this year. And the reason is that Tony was going to get up on Dreamforce.
Yeah.
And so Tony shared it on all his networks. Benioff shared it on his networks. And the thing just blew up. And I mean, it was great because it was like, by the way, how you created this show name. I remember sitting on a whiteboard with 40 names of this blog post written out and just scratching through the ones that would suck and circling the like simple one of like 7 things that Tony. Now I know that's been played out since then, but that's an example of some of the things that we did to just, we wanted people to know who we were. So we talked about the people that they already knew.
Yeah.
And we told them, and we condensed their message down in a way they could consume it. And then those people in turn went around and talked about us.
And I mean, you really created a style of content there too, because you understood what the audience wanted. They're like, yeah, sure, I could buy Tony Robbins' books, I could attend his seminar, but like this is kind of a cheat sheet. I could just learn the 7 most valuable things right away from this short form blog post. And it became a thing. Like you didn't see listicles at the same, at the same volume that you saw once you guys started creating them. And they were these things that just like blog posts that were being shared all over LinkedIn and people talking about it just because the content was easy to consume. It was written, specifically for an audience that like wasn't you, but it was your buyer, right? Like, and
we weren't doing any filler shit. We weren't optimizing for SEO. We weren't trying to cram stuff in there. We were saying, how can we take out as many words of this post as we possibly can?
Yeah.
And I remember in the early days, you guys remember a company Lattice Engines way back in the day? It was Sales Intelligence. I read their blog, every one of their blog posts, and basically wrote my own blog post from the inspiration from their blog post and made them 1/5 the length and way more snappy and added all my elements to it. And it was like that. It was the content that I used.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing, man. All right. Well, I got to say, we talked about a bunch of stuff. One thing you've triggered me on for our pod, storytelling. I mean, that's the least Matt and I mean, we talked, but like the stories were incredible here, man. And like so actionable, whether you know it or not. I don't know if you know that, but like we're leaving here with things that people can go do and learn from you. So that's what we're trying to do, bro. That's the transaction for you.
I love it.
It's great to have you on. It's great to be reconnected. I mean, I'm just really excited, dude. I miss the energy. It was great to have you on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Things have changed, but we still have opportunity to make a big impact,
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what you guys are doing, and I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. God, we got to get down to Atlanta, Craig, or Florida.
I mean, I'm not sure I'm going to go down to Florida right now.
I got your addresses to ship some tangerines in January, but we definitely need to find a time to hang out in person.
I love it. All right, guys.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of The Transaction. Craig and I really appreciate the fact that you've listened all the way to the end. What are you actually doing here? For show notes and other episodes, please visit us at thetransactionpod.com. Like and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other place you get your podcast from. Either you have walked away from your podcast device, or this is playing somewhere in the background. Someone in your house would really like for you to shut this off now.